Computer Programming for Kids, Step 21. All the code and nothing but the code, plus a little more. In this step, I'm going to show you all the code as it now stands. First, a panoramic, but vertical instead of the more customary horizontal, screenshot of all the code as it appears in Visual Studio. This way you can see how Visual Studio colorizes various elements of the code to give your brain mental shortcuts as to what it is you are looking at. Then I will paste in the code in the regular way, text, that you can copy and paste. So, without further ado, or I don't, here's the code as a vertical scroll. And then it shows that 200 and some lines of code running down the page. Just as the layout of code eventually appears logical to us, whereas at first it just seems like a cacophonous, jumbled up mess, this wild display of colors has a beauty of its own too. Of course, your mileage may vary. And then there's an image from the movie Strange Brew, them saying their typical beauty, eh? I can't really do a Canadian accent, though. Now for the same code, but in the relatively tame black on white, its saving grace being that it is copy and pastable or printable. In fact, you may want to print it out so that you can annotate it with your own comments and questions. Or perhaps, like me, you like to sit out in the sun and pore over your code or somebody else's code, taking your time to let it sink in. The rays and the code, that is. And then, that's what you got in the newsletter is the entire code for the forum, which spans several pages. And we cannot forget this important piece of code from the multiple choice class.cs code file. And then it shows that class and its definition. In the next step, we will get another view of the code, not as it appears in Visual Studio, but the lines of code that actually run in order. Until then, earth-shakingly important notice. If you have a basic programming question suitable to an audience of kids, send it to idiolectable@gmail.com, specifying whether you would like your name and location used if it is printed in a future step of this newsletter. If you are a subscriber to the newsletter, you can also leave a question at the bottom of this step in the comments section. If you do not want to give your real name, a nickname is acceptable. The first letter to the editor of mine that was printed appeared in Rolling Stone magazine back in the early 1970s, and I signed it Sylvester for some reason which I no longer remember. Finally, it's always interesting to see where people are from, so please provide your city or town and the state it's in too, or province, or whatever the region where you live is called.